the next Labour Party conference, they'd probably rough him up and kick him out like that poor old bloke a couple of years ago. Do you remember him? Of course. Orwell was a socialist, all right, but his version was based on dignity and democracy, not bullshit and bullying. He'd have had a field day with his poxy coalition and made mincemeat of Murdoch. Someone once called him the saint of common decency. Orwell, that is, not Murdoch. Have a slice of that today, eh? Can you believe there's no recording of George Orwell's voice or grainy film footage to save for 2084? There are statues of Billy Wright, Thomas Cook and Andy Bloody Capp, but none of the man who gave us Orwellian, Big Brother or Brave Boxer. The Maverick's Maverick started life as Eric Arthur Blair. Can you believe that? Bloody Blair! The lying, murdering bastard! Meanwhile, Eric's parents were networking to get him into Eton, where he was supposed to sit comfortably amongst what he called the lower, upper, middle class. He lived for a while at the family home in Southbold, the soulless second home retreat on the Suffolk coast, much loved by Michael Palin, without a railway station or a bus stop. He didn't like Southwold, and Southwold didn't like him. Still don't.
His name was Eric Blair, but the likeness stops right there. His words could all be trusted, and his mind was always there. Oh, 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 Southwold morning dew. I'd like to take a Southwold walk with you, while others kept their distance. He went down now. He lived with tramps and drifters in the depths of London town. And later in the story, the Eton boy went home, where he made it to the coalfields and joined the men in the world. Oh, 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 Southwold morning dew. I'd like to take the Southwold walk with you. Oh, 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 the Southwold morning dew. I'd like to take the Southwold walk with you. The truth is in the words, and the words start to play. Sometimes they are gorgeous, and they speak to heart and head. But don't ask me what that truth is, 'cause I can't explain it. I only know when they're spoken, you can hear it crystal clear. That's crystal clear. He went to do his calling in the Spanish Civil War. fighting for his ideals in the shoes and gold. And maybe 10 years later he wrote 1984. Well, I wonder what he write now in this world full of hatred, this world full of war. Say, oh, 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 the South will go on in you. I'd like to take the South will go on with you. Oh, 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 the South will go on in you. I'd like to take the South will go on with you.
He never went to uni. No gap year for young Eric. Instead, he followed in his father's footsteps to serve the empire and became, of all things, a copper in Burma. But that was where he developed a conscience and a lifelong hatred of bullies. Orwell loved England, where the beer is bitterer, the coin's heavier, and the grass greener. And he loved nothing more than banging away on his typewriter with a roll-up of strong tobacco and endless cups of strong tea. Indian, warmed up in a pot, tea poured into the cup before the milk, and no sugar. Tramps on the way to the Kent hotfields took him for a toff on hard times, but he never affected a Cockney accent and loved it when people called him mate. But most importantly, he was obsessed with how the poor lived and how they died. He was never a well man, as you probably know. And that bullet that went through his neck in Spain, that can hardly be called health and safety now, can it? George Orwell was born 110 years ago today. Happy birthday. And he died aged 46 from TB in January 1950. Just 6 months after the publication of what he called that wretched book. 1984. He also wrote with strong tea and sympathy about another George, the middle-aged George Bowling, who badly needed to be coming up for air.
I bent down to pick up a primrose. I couldn't reach it. Too much bed. I squatted down on haunches and I picked a little bunch of them. Lucky there was no one there to see me. I stood up and I put my little bunch of primrose on a gatepost, and then, on an impulse, I slid the false teeth out of my mouth and had a look. If I'd had a mirror, I would have had a look at the whole of myself. And as a matter of fact, I knew what I looked like already. A fat man of 45, in a grey herringbone suit, a little bit worse for wear, and a bowler hat. A wife, 2 kids, and a house in the suburbs written all over me. But the thing that struck me, as I stood there giving my dental plate a once over, was that it doesn't matter. Even false teeth don't matter. I am fat, yes. I look like a bookie's unsuccessful brother. No woman will ever go to bed with me unless she was paid to. I know all that, but I don't care. I don't want the women. I don't even want to be young again. I just want to feel alive. And I did, that moment, as I stood there looking at my primrose. I wonder, why is it that they're all such bloody fools? Why don't people, instead of the idiocies they do spend their time on, just spend their time looking at this pond? Oh, the stuff that's in there. Newts, water beetles, water snails, caddis flies, leeches. God knows what else you can only see under the microscope. The wonder of their lives down there under the water. You could spend a lifetime, 10 lifetimes, just looking into this one pool and never get to the end of it. And all the time, there's that feeling of wonder, that indescribable flame. It is the only thing worth having, and we don't want it. But I do.
George Orwell got up and as far as his petrol tank, searching for pastures clear and lukewarm below. He thinks as he drives along, where my best is gone. The world goes on passing by, and George carries on. Where's he from? This wind that drives his own, and our hearts know when our souls come up for air. He drives to his childhood town and wonders what it's like now. He pulls and drives along to his secret farm. The town pond is now done. The fish and the moose have gone. He smiles as he turns around to the water come. Where's his farm? This wind that drives us on, and our hearts know when our souls coming up for air. The green trees and the wildflowers and the sky and the churchyard and the bar and the river runs nearby and it takes you deep inside, coming up for air. Well, George had a sweet left foot, could pick out a passing shoe, but he passed on the call from spurs, for they're his and hers. Where's this from? This wind that drives us on, and our hearts know when our souls come up air. The green trees and the wildflowers and the sky and the treasure and the spire and the river runs nearby and it takes you deep inside, coming up for air, coming up for air,
Coming on up for air.
coming up for air,
Coming on up for air.
coming up for air.
Coming on up for air.
It's important to try to get to the coalface when the fillers are at work. This is not easy, because when the mine is working, visitors are a nuisance and are not encouraged. But if you go to any other time, it's possible to come away with a completely wrong impression. The time to go is when the machines are roaring and the air is thick with coal dust, and you can actually see what the miners have to do. At these times, the place is like hell. Or at any rate, like my own mental picture of hell. Most of the things one imagines in hell are there. Heat, noise, confusion, darkness, foul air, and above all, unbearably cramped space. And when you finally get there, you crawl through the last line of pit props, and you see opposite you a shiny black wall 3 or 4 feet high. This is the coalface. Overhead is a smooth ceiling made by the rock from which the coal is being cut. Underneath the rock again, so that the corridor you are in is no higher than the ledge of coal itself. Probably not much more than a yard. And a first impression is the frightful, deafening din coming from the conveyor belt which takes the coal away. You cannot see very far because the fog of coal dust throws back the beam of your lamp. But you can see on either side of you the line of semi-naked, kneeling men, 1 to every 4 or 5 yards, driving their shovels under the coal and flinging it swiftly over their left shoulders. It's impossible to see the fillers at work without feeling a pang of envy for their toughness. It's a dreadful job that they do. It's an almost superhuman job by the standard of an ordinary person. For they've not only got to shift monstrous quantities of coal, they've got to do it in a position which doubles or trebles the work. They've got to remain kneeling a while. They can hardly rise from their knees without hitting the ceiling. Now the fillers look and work as though they were made of iron. They really do look like iron-hammered statues under the smooth coat of coal dust which clings to them from head to foot. It's only when you see miners down the mine and naked that you realise what splendid men they are. Most of them are small, but nearly all of them have the most noble bodies. Broad shoulders tapering to slender, supple waists, small pronounced buttocks and sinewy thighs with not an inch of wasted flesh anywhere. You can never forget that spectacle once you've seen it. The line of bowed, kneeling figures, sooty black all over, driving their huge shovels under the coal with stupendous force and speed.
Yards down, stop with them, we'll ever see, steep with them, we'll ever be. So let's sit here nice and warm. We'll sit here by the fireside here, or and watch the steel-bedded miners go 400 yards down. And really that is just the start. There's still another mile to go, and there works the future. Thatcher will never know. It's 400 yards down. It's 400 yards down. It's 400 miles down. Boys, follow dads down. They're heading down the nail shop. They won't get home till after dark, when they'll kick a ball about. They're hoping that there's just a chance they'll make it to St. James's Park. 400 yards down. The heat of noise and dirt and dust is something you can never trust. And try working just one day, mining the hardest day. How could anybody ruin such people? How could anybody run down their lives? How could anyone destroy their communities? How could they tell such lies? It's 400 yards down. A shift lasts 7 hours or more, half naked in the dirt and soil. There's no time to sit and rest. 10 minutes perhaps for tea and scram, like the feeble light of the Davy land. And 400 yards above, the rumours spreading thick and fast. Boys are trapped by a pit blast. Press cameras snap their souls. Eyes open but heads held low. How could anybody ruin such people? How could anybody run down their lives? How could anyone destroy their communities? How could they tell such lies? How could anybody ruin such people? How could anybody run down their lives? How could anyone destroy their communities? How could they tell such lies? Some things are not right. Some things are not right. Some things are not right.
Of every type of human being, only the artist takes it upon himself to say that he cannot work. But it is quite true. There are times when one cannot work. Money again. Always bloody money! A lack of money means discomfort, means squalid worries, means a shortage of tobacco, means an ever-present consciousness of failure. But above all, it means loneliness. And in loneliness, no decent book has ever been written.
Gordon thought it all out in the native, selfish manner of a boy. There are two ways to live, he decided. You can be rich, or you can deliberately refuse to be rich. You can possess money, or you can despise money. But the one fatal thing is to worship money and fail to get it. Gordon took it for granted that he himself would never be able to make money. It never occurred to him that he might have the talents that could be turned into account. Well, that's what his schoolmasters had done for him. They rubbed it into him that he was a seditious little nuisance and never likely to succeed in life. And he accepted this. Very well, then. He would make it his special purpose not to succeed. Already at the age of 16, he knew what side he was on. He was against the money god and all his swinish priesthood. Gordon had declared war on money. But secretly, of course. Dusty bookshop, Orwell sets the scene. Gordon Comstock, adrift without a beam. Our copywriter thinks it's all beneath him, just a scheme. Take on serious money, count the cost. The money god we our little boy lost. Gordon fought, but somehow knew they'd always take the lot. But the mundane life, it's not for Gordon. All the petty lies, the waste, the boredom. A life spent on nothing more than their precious aspidistras. Gordon found a way out of his pain. A lovely girl, Rosemary was her name. But Gordon made a mess of that, he didn't know when to wait. But the mundane life, it's not for Gordon. All the petty lies, the waste, the boredom. A life spent on nothing more than their precious aspidistras. Come on, Gordon, move on, don't stop, there's no time to waste. The lovely Rosemary is waiting for her mate. But the mundane life, it's not for Gordon. All the petty lies, the waste, the boredom. A life spent on nothing more than their precious aspidistras. Gordon finally got the things he needs and married Rosemary on Albion Street. And soon you'll hear the lovely sound of tiny, tiny feet. Well done, Gordon, you moved on and didn't stop. There's no time to waste. And now the aspidistra standing in its space, taking pride of play.
remember, oh how vividly, his shabby uniform and fierce, pathetic, innocent face. The complex side issues of the war seem to fade away, and I see clearly that there was, at any rate, no doubt as to who was in the right. In spite of power politics and journalistic lying, the central issue of the Spanish Civil War was the attempt of people like this to win the decent life which they knew to be their birthright. It's difficult to think of this particular man's probable end without several kinds of bitterness. When one thinks of all the people who support or have supported fascism, one stands amazed at their diversity. What a crew. But the clue is really very simple. They are all people with something to lose, or people who long for a hierarchical society and dread the prospect of a world of free and equal human beings. All that the working man demands is what these others would consider the indispensable minimum without which human life cannot be lived at all. Enough to eat, freedom from the haunting terror of unemployment, the knowledge that your children will get a fair chance, a bath once a day, clean linen reasonably often, a roof that doesn't leak, and short enough working hours to leave you with a little energy when the day is done. Not one of those who preach against materialism would consider life livable without these things. How easily that minimum could be attained if we choose to set our minds to it for only 20 years. How right the working classes are in their materialism. I never saw that Italian militiaman again, nor did I ever learn his name. It could be taken as certain that he's dead. Nearly 2 years later, when the war was visibly lost, I wrote these verses in his memory.
The Italian soldiers shook my hand beside the guardroom table. A strong hand and a subtle hand, whose palms are only able to meet within the sound of guns. But oh, what peace I knew then in gazing on his battered face, purer than any woman's, for the fly-blown words that made me spew, still in his ears were holy. And he was born knowing what I'd learned out of books and slowly. The treacherous guns had told their tale, and we had both bought it. But my gold brick was made of gold. Who would have ever thought it? Good luck go with you, Italian soldier. But luck is not for the brave. What would the world give back to you? Always less than you gave. Between the shadow and the ghost, between the white and the red, between the bullet and the lie, where would you hide your head? For where is Manuel Gonzalez? And where is Pedro Aguirre? And where is Ramon Fenolosa? The earthworms know where they are. Your name and your deeds were forgotten before your bones were dry. And the lie that slew you is buried under a deeper lie. But the thing that I saw in your face, no power can disinherit. No bomb that ever burst shatters the crystal spirit.